good afternoon, good evening, whichever time suits you best. In this video, all I would like to do is to kind of review back through what we learned about setting assignments on teams, placing that accountability to our students, and more importantly, setting up marking rubrics so that we can provide quality feedback to our classes for the work that they are producing, all from the comfort of our PC screens. Not only that, I would like to kind of give you an example as to how we might edit and review and provide that feedback. So if I jump straight back in for you, now I want to click back on my teams. Remember last time we looked at my Year 11 group. Now I can click on the assignments tab here. Again, we're looking at that top ribbon. We're not in our main post where the general chat is. We're jumping straight to assignments. Now, as you can see, I've got my assigned. The testing that we did last time is still there. Now, I don't want to click on that because if I do, it's going to give you a list of all of my students' names, and I'm not going to have that published online for any reason. So instead, I've saved another assignment similar to the one I've done before, but a little bit more detail in it in my draft. So rather than assigning it, I saved this in my drafts so that I can then edit without having to view my students' names. I can still edit this one. Once I click on it, at the top of the page, there'll be a button to edit the assignment. It's just, I do not feel comfortable sharing student names over the net. So I'm going to click on my draft assignment here. I'm back onto my edit page. As you can see, I've got my title, I've got my tag, I've got my instructions. Just to point out, you can highlight certain instructions to make them stand out. This looks pretty good when you see it from the student's perspective. It really does stand out on their screens. But remember, we're looking at setting up some points, some marks for the answer, and a rubric. Now, if I click on my rubric button here, it's going to allow me to choose a rubric that I've already created. Now, you can be as flexible as you want. Now, uploading a rubric, first of all, you need to have created a rubric on the Teams platform. So once I've created a rubric, it will always appear, in your rubrics that you've set up. As you can see, I've been playing around with this since July, and I've been playing around with them more recently. If I want to set up a new rubric though, click on new rubric, enter my title, blah, enter my description, blah, blah. This is just like, what I'm saying to my students in regard. And then I've got, a scale of excellent to poor. I can add in more categories there depending on how many assessment objectives you really want to get across. Every one of these columns will be, something else. So it might be for an English essay, I might have a column on quotations, use of quotes. I might have a column on use of subject terminology. I might have a column on their ideas. I might have a column on whether they're focused on the question. I might have a column on another skill that they're focusing on. I'm not going to bore you at length and write these out in front of you. And then you can put the criteria beneath, and then you can add on more rows depending on what you want. And this will build your rubric for your class. Now, I love data, so I will always place points onto my students' work. And this is where you will start to kind of score across the board. And obviously these columns all have a set number of points. So obviously the good, excellent answers have more points awarded than the fair and the poor. And you can evenly distribute, the weighting of the skills across the board here. So as you can see, I've got 3 different areas that I'm marking on, and I'm giving a third of each of their marks for those areas. So I can attach that, and it will go onto the assignment that I've set. I'm going to close the editor though, because I've already got a rubric that I've made for this English one. All changes made to this rubric. Yes, we know that. So I'm going to add it again. Instead of creating a new rubric, I'm going to use one I made earlier today. So Romeo and Juliet Literature Mark Scheme. If you are an English teacher, hopefully you'll be familiar with this mark scheme. I've lifted it straight from the AQA website. I've got my AO1, both strands of it, so reading and understanding the texts, having that critical style, personal response, as well as textual references, your quotations, both AO1. Now each AO1 there, as in the mark scheme for the AQA literature course, is worth 20% of their overall mark. For each essay, that's 30 marks. Likewise, AO2, we've got the two separate components of AO2, 20% each. And then finally, we have our AO3, which is our context, 20%. So they're the assessment objectives for English literature. They're for each essay, as it were. Romeo and Juliet, A Christmas Carol, paper 1, section A, paper 2, section A, and section B. And at the top here, we've got it broken down to 6. Of course, the language, I would do this again, and I would have the 4 tiers that they could be marking in. But that's, this is a detailed rubric, and, I know it balances off, and, having trained to mark papers myself, this is exactly the same rubric that I would use to mark a GCSE paper. So I'm going to attach it to this document. As you can see, the rubric is here now. It's there, it's attached, and I've assigned 100 points, but I'm not going to have 100 points because at the end of the day, this is just one essay that I want them to produce. So I'm going to, correlate it to what the exam would have. So this is a 30-mark answer, a 30-mark question. The mark scheme marks up to 30 marks, and because I've weighted it, I've pulled out all of my assessment objectives. It should evenly distribute the marks based on it there. Now, I'm going to assign this. Let's do it for next Sunday, 8 o'clock. These poor Year 11s have been assigned so much work from me. They're probably going to be really confused tomorrow. Okay. Academic writing, response to Princess Scully's speech, Act 1, Scene 1. Literature, due date, yada, yada, yada. It is there. Now, if I click on here, student view, this is what the students will see as and when it has been set. The beauty of this is that the students will be able to see the writing here. It can be read to them. They have the mark scheme, and they'll have the document that would be attached that they can access as well. I'm going to take you now to a different class, and I'm going to find for you some work that was set today that has been turned in. If I can just find Miss Sadler, there you are. So this was some work that was set. I've used the same marking rubric. So Miss Sadler is a teacher in our school. This is a test group that I set up with members of staff. And as you can see, she's written an extensive answer for me. So I held her to account and said, right, this is the work you need to do today. Go away, get it done. And she's come back to me, she's hand submitted this, it's ready to come in. So on the right hand side of my screen, I can now, I can cycle through my class, I can cycle through the documents, but I want to look at the rubric specifically for this answer here. So AO1, I would read through this and I would say, okay, Miss Sadler, you've got clear understanding of the task. I can see that you've understood what you need to do and you're writing in a clear, explained critical style. My AO1 for textual references, it's chocked full of textual references here. She's referencing the whole play, not just the extract. I would say she's probably apt references there. So, she's getting 5 points in that specific area. Her analysis of language, form and structure. Let's have a look here. Okay, yeah, I'm not really reading this, guys. I'm just showing you how I would go about marking and feeding back. Clear understanding. Second AO2, so the relevant quotations, and not quotations, it's the subject terminology and understanding of the methods that are used. I'd say it's definitely clear. And then finally AO3, the wider ideas. I would say she's got an explained structured comment just at the end there. Now, I've selected all of these. If I close it down, I mean, I can at the end of each AO1 give specific feedback. So I might say, if you want to develop into thoughtful, consider doing, this. I'm giving that practical advice for this area of development. But I'm going to close down the rubric for now. I'm going to click back on. I've closed down the wrong one there. Sorry, shouldn't have clicked close there. I should have clicked close the rubric. So I've marked Miss Sadler's work. She's scored 20 points out of the 30, and that marries up with the mark scheme that AQA examiners would use. So I would say with confidence, this essay is worth 20 points out of the possible 30. And if Miss Sadler wanted to, have that feedback, she can click on the rubric herself. She can view to see exactly what I thought of her work based on the rubric that we set up earlier. And obviously, if I left her feedback, so if we were to go to AO3, which is our weakest one, the feedback I might leave for this one would be, what you need to really consider Shakespeare's perspectives, etc. Have you considered discussing this particular perspective that Shakespeare had of Princess Scalice's speech? Or no, this one's male aggression, sorry. Yeah, so if I click done there, we'll go back and she will have it. If I click on the return button, this is when it will send the essay with the feedback straight back to the students, so they get an idea as to how well they've done. And obviously, you can continue to set assignments up with redrafts, and you can reuse the same document. So it's kind of like an exercise book where they are continually developing and redrafting their work. Now, I hope that this has answered some questions for you out there, but if not, just give me a shout and I can support you as best you can. I'm still playing around with this platform. If I learn anything new, I will be sharing with everybody. So yeah, thank you for listening, and goodbye.